Come on now.
Hey guys.
It's just a pineapple.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Here at the Swamp, get ready to beat LSU. Y'all tune in to Rule Number 1 podcast on Monday.
And we're back. Episode 8. Man, I'm really excited about this one. We have a guy from the realm of NASCAR, partner. You know I'm a big fan of that.
Oh, yeah. We're so excited. We love to be able to get into all different kind of areas of life, and we were able to have somebody that was so invested into NASCAR. We're excited. We have Riley. He's head of the Midwest ticket sales for NASCAR, and he's trying to move up the ranks in the NASCAR realms in terms of more of the business side of things rather than driving a race car.
Yeah, being on the track. Yeah, man. Welcome in, Riley McClellan. Thank you so much for coming on, dude.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you guys having me.
You work in NASCAR. I got into it not too long ago. A lot of people don't know what goes into it. All the ownership points, all the, the playoff points, all the tracking, all the teams, all the manufacturers. A lot of people just look at it like it's just cars going in circle, but it's really not. And, I've been reading a lot about NASCAR because, I'm just a big fan of it. And everything seems to be pointing in the right direction, especially in sales, marketing and viewership. I know that it's been one of the only sports, the marquee sports in the United States market that's actually grown in viewership in the last couple of years, and that's awesome, man.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been a good couple of years for us. We took something like COVID that was for so many such a bad thing, and we made it to where, we started an iRacing series. And iRacing in NASCAR is the most one-to-one, right? Because instead of just looking at your windows, now you're just looking at a screen, but you still got to drive, you still got to lift, all of this other stuff. And then we positioned that so that way people would still have something live to watch, And then we're also kind of a one-to-one where drivers are in their cars. So they're not really next to other, athletes on the track there. So you can still run races. It kind of hurt from the fan perspective not being there, but we were still able to have races. And I think that's what drew a large part of our new audience in. So it's definitely been a crazy couple of years, but we've been doing pretty good.
Yeah, you mentioned the iRacing. You don't know what it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was. I was about to ask.
The iRacing it's insane, man, what goes into it, the amount of money. It's like these big kind of simulators that drivers have. Some of them have them at their house, I'm pretty sure. That they race in and get in. It's like a whole steering wheel, the whole chassis, and it's just racing online. Like they're big monitors, and you're just basically inside this car. You're just online racing people.
Oh, wow. So it's basically like a big video game simulator.
Essentially.
Exactly, yeah. Imagine taking the bucket seat out of your car with the steering wheel and everything, and then just instead of having windows to your left, right, and front, they're just big, like, monitors.
Oh, that's
And then
sweet.
it's everything so, like, realistic. It's, like, on time. It doesn't lag. It's pretty cool, yeah, if you've never seen it.
Yeah, you brought up COVID. When it hit bad in 2020, there were all the sports kind of shut down. NASCAR was the first to come back and do something in person. I do remember that. And they set kind of, the protocol for COVID sports and whatnot. But I watched those iRacing matches or races all the time. Like I would get on Twitch or, I'd see the live stream on Twitter during COVID, just sit in the house, and they are realistic, dude. It's crazy. Like the wrecks that would come from it. Some of them are kind of far-fetched how it happens, but
you're going to have that, I'm sure, though.
But it's still cool, man. It's so realistic to watch. And I felt like I was, watching a normal race.
Yeah, I would love to hop in one of those things just to try it out. That would be a blast.
It's a blast. It's a good way to spend 3 hours and you only even spend 5 minutes.
Really? So you've been in one?
Oh, yeah. We have a couple in the office.
Oh, that's
sick. Oh, man, that is so much fun. I know they, before, on Speed Weeks in Daytona, they, it's the week leading up to the Daytona 500 and kicking off the NASCAR year. They have simulators and stuff set up out in the concourse in front of, the track. And I'm a huge fan. If I see a big old video game right there, I'm obviously going to jump in there and go play. I waited 2.5 hours in line to go do it before the race.
That's awesome.
I love going to races, man.
Well, Riley, we ask all of our guests, we kind of jumped right into a little bit of your background, but we want to ask you, what's your number one rule you live by, man?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that I live by is just try to get 1% better every day. Especially in between your 20s and 30s, there's a lot of new stuff going on, but you're also developing a lot as an adult, as a professional. And, it's something that you don't want to have. You're not going to get there at 100% in a week. But if you can get 1% better each day, in a year, you're 300% better. So that's kind of what I try to go to, and then have kind of that, kind of grow. And then next thing you know, you're a year or two in and you've had a ton of growth just by trying to do a little bit more each day.
I think that's kind of the perspective that me and Nate here take on the podcast that we are putting on. We work really hard outside of our 9 to 5 jobs to put on this production and to get 1% better. We always sit here and think for hours. Like yesterday, we sat here at the house probably for 8 or 9 hours saying like, who can we have on? Who's somebody that's cool, that has a cool story. And we try to get 1% better. And I'm glad that, you take that perspective into your career too. That's a really good way for people, not to get drugged down in the lull of, life and development, and not to get discouraged by it, but embrace it. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, for sure. And, the big thing about like tickets and just sales in general is some days are going to be good. Some days are going to be bad. Some weeks and some months are going to be bad. But at the end of the day, if you can leave and say, hey, I got a little bit better on this objection, or, hey, I actually figured out how to sell this hospitality area a little bit better, you at least have something to go home and say, okay, cool. Now we got somewhere to go. We can just go up from there. Then eventually those sales will start hitting, and now we'll start getting somewhere.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of videos. I mean, I'm a big TikTok guy and Instagram Reels. I really like a lot of the motivational quotes and stuff you hear. But I saw one, and it was this guy, and he was saying, he's like, basically society is telling you in your 20s, it's, go have fun while you're young, go party, go out to clubs, go do whatever. When in reality, in fact, if you look at the people that are most successful in life, the most vital years of their career were between 20 and 30, and they put in the work to be able to set themselves up in a situation where by the time they're 40, they can sit back and coast the rest of their life and enjoy all the money they've made.
Yeah, I like to see, like the hard work as compound interest, right? If you look at something, like investing your money or investing your hard work, if you look at Roth IRAs, right, the money that you would make from if you just did it from 20 to 30 and just let it sit and compound is a tenfold than what if you start at 30 and just, keep going. Mm-hmm. So especially, if you can get those first 5 years and just work hard and gain a brand, like a personal brand for yourself, I mean, I think the results are crazy.
Right. And I feel like a lot of times, I took a couple classes that explain investments and entrepreneurship a little bit, but I feel like as a whole, society's not really like teaching in terms of investments and like 401ks and Roth IRAs. Whenever you get to the workforce, that's when like, oh, hey, you have all these options and you can do whatever you want with it, but nobody's ever taught them about it. And so you have a lot of these people where by the time they get to 30, they're like, hey, how are all these other people have all this money and I'm just stuck here and I've never even thought about opening one. So I feel like as a whole, we need to do a better job of explaining that to people.
Oh, for sure. Just as an example, we just hired 2 new guys full-time there in the Midwest region for consumer sales. And then, open enrollment comes around and they're like 401k, like, what's that? I'm like, dude, like you guys are 23 and 24. If you don't get on that right now, you're just going to hate yourself in 30 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if like just simple numbers, if you're 22, right, it's $500 a month to max it out for the year. But then by the time you're 67, you have millions.
Yeah.
So let's say you have $2 million. You don't have to work the rest of the day in your life if you make 10%. And you have $200,000 a year just to play around with. Mm-hmm. At 67, when your house should be paid off, it's insane.
You could definitely tell that Riley here is a numbers guy. I love it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
It's awesome because I'm not a numbers guy. I'm a guy that I talk my way through things. I think my way through things. I don't look at numbers and perspective. I'm like, well, I look at the whole situation as a whole and think a big picture, like, okay, well, my brain just works differently. It's crazy, though. A lot of people are different that way. But, bringing up what y'all said about working hard through your 20s and 30s, it's really, really true. What's that old saying that we always, tell ourselves? Work hard in your 20s so you can play hard in your 30s or something like that?
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's kind of my goals for my life is work super hard in 30 till I'm 30 and then kind of, still coast in 30 by the time I'm 40. Hopefully it's, I pretty much got it made. I mean, I'm sure everybody wants to think like that, but you have to take the steps to get there.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So
the biggest thing is like right now for people in their 20s to 30s, this is like the time where they have the least amount of responsibilities, right? Mm-hmm. So like most of them, they don't have a family, they don't have to worry about too many bills, maybe a house, a car payment. So if you can work right now and then when you have a family in your 30s, now you've already set the groundwork, so you don't have to work 70 hours a week, and you're still up there with your, your income. You'll be able to support your family.
That's awesome. Riley, you can tell you're a very intelligent guy. You moved your way up in the NASCAR realm, marketing realm. How did you get there? Let's go back to step one. If, somebody's watching this podcast at home and is like, man, I would love to have Riley's job one day. What was the steps that took you to this point?
Yeah, dude. So I would say, the biggest thing is kind of dumb luck. I had a teacher. It is. The story is incredible. So I had a teacher who was like, hey, you guys should all go to LinkedIn and all this. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I got one. And then probably about a month later, a guy named Josh Belkoff, he used to be with Sports Business Solutions. Now he's with the Tyson Group. He reached out, and it was my junior year. I just got done playing ball. We had just won the World Series at that time. So I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm going to end it on that.
That's at Southeastern, right?
Yeah.
Pretty solid way to go out right there.
So he's like, hey, do you want to go up to Daytona? Like, we're doing this sales seminar. It's going to be an all-day thing, but, like, we'll have it catered. And I said, well, like, what day is it? He said a Friday. I'm like, well, shit. If I could do that and it's an excused absence, like, one of my last days I had to do practice, like, I could leave and I didn't have to run. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is
out.
Yeah, I don't got a condition anymore. I'm out. So I wound up doing it. And he was like, yeah, like, bring a couple resumes just in case. I said, okay, whatever. Because I'm still a junior in my mind. I have to do an internship. I have, like, 3 classes I got to do. And then so we get up there, have like a whole sales seminar, see the track, go eat lunch, and then come back, and they said, okay, well, now we're going to have open interviews. And I was like, man, what? Yeah, like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, hell, I have nothing to lose. This is phenomenal. So one of the first questions that they asked me, they said, if you could write a mixtape about your life, what would it be and why? And I have no idea why I said this, but I did. The first thing that popped up in my head was asthma. So, me just in the back, asthma. And then they're like, this in front of everybody, dude. There's like 30 people, and they said, well, why? And I said, because it'll leave them breathless, baby. And then that was the only ever question they asked. And then they asked, like, if I could do an internship. So we wound up doing a paid internship as inside
That's
sales.
one hell of a response.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I wound up going 2 months later doing a paid internship with him for 4 months. And then once my internship was done, I worked trackside at Martinsville Speedway in Virginia, and then finished up my degree there.
Man, that's awesome, dude. You've been all over the place, Yeah. NASCAR is real all over the place. They race in LA, they race in Phoenix for the championship. They obviously race in Daytona, Talladega, stuff like that, man. That's crazy that your job is taking you to all these different places. I remember when I first contacted you about trying to, get into NASCAR, I saw a video of you at the banquet in Nashville, Tennessee, right? That's where they host it. And
burnouts on Broadway.
Yep, they do the burnouts on there. Like
that's sick.
Yeah. But I swiped up on your story. I said, how do I get there? And if you'd have told me that story right there and not you can do this, this, and this, I would have been like, dude, I am in 100%. But that's awesome. Like, it's all chance of luck, man.
Yeah, right place, right time. I feel like that happens with a lot of people. I mean, a lot of successful people, you work really hard, but you catch a couple breaks every now and then, and it really helps you on your career.
Yeah, I'm a very big proponent of do what you need to do and always try to be nice to people. Whether you believe in karma or not, I think everything comes around full circle. So 100%. It's just kind of right place, right time,
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's a big thing on just also being very professional wherever you go. I mean, it doesn't matter, there's people in all different backgrounds, and you don't ever know who you're really surrounded with. And so you could just be having a natural conversation at the bar or at the dinner, and you don't know who's sitting right next to you, and they might hear something you say, hey, I really like that. Like, what's your name? Like, you mind to talk something? And that could be your lucky break. Yeah. But if you're out there, cursing up a storm or, being
an idiot.
And you may never have that opportunity.
You always got to carry a sense of professionalism with us. And we've both agreed with that. Like, if we go out, we get noticed now because, the podcast is doing somewhat well, and people see us out in public and mention the podcast to us. But what if we were acting like an idiot in public? They'd be like, man, these guys are just, hypocrites.
Yeah. We don't quite have the Barstool Sports or something, liberties yet. But
yeah, and I think the biggest thing that people fail to realize at a young age is not only do you have like brands like Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, but your personal brand is just as big to you. At least as important. to where like sports is such a small industry, especially if you get in like the business and then the ticketing side, to where if you don't know somebody that you know does.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's one of the things. If you leave a bad impression, you don't know how many people that's going to make it to.
You know, I'm so glad that you brought that up. You know, branding yourself nowadays, especially with how, you know, business has gone all online essentially. Everything's literally all online. Advertisements on social media, anything. You can order from social media. You have to brand yourself to make it in that realm. It's kind of like a whole new like world opening up that we've developed with the social media and how to market through it and whatnot. And if you look like a bad person online, you could be a great person, like in reality, like you could be a great person, you know, but if you look like you're a bad person online, nobody's going to give you the time of day because just how much, you know, influence that comes from online resources nowadays through social media and whatnot. So yes, personal brand is huge. I know I work on my personal brand all the time. I only take projects on that, you know, will only look good on me. I know me and some others, we are very picky when it comes to interviews. Yep. And we only select certain people that we know that represent themselves well, represent their story well, and represent their, you know, who they're affiliated with well. And, you know, Riley, that's such a great point. You got a personal brand.
Yeah, I mean, to go what Brian said in terms of the interviews, I mean, we've had people on and we've recorded and decided just not to drop their episode because we didn't feel like it represent our, you know, vision and our mission statement, kind of where we want to move. And if that's going to put a bad taste in some people's mouths, I mean, we're not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we're stern. We're stern. We want to put out our product and our, you know, our brand. And that's huge. I mean, everybody that is, you know, growing up and nowadays trying to find a job, you have to have an online brand. You have to have a personal brand to get any recognition at all. And
then on top of that, I mean, if you have like an online brand, you go apply for a job and you, for instance, have a TikTok or, you know, your Instagram reels and you're well known. I mean, as long as you're being professional about it, that only like supports your company that you would be future working with. So you're like, oh yeah, I'm in Bristol with NASCAR right now and this and that, and your TikTok blows up. That only helps TikTok. I mean, that only helps NASCAR. So,
you know, Riley, it seems like NASCAR has kind of instilled some good, you know, business values, morals in you as an employee. How's the workspace there? You know, a lot of bad stereotypes go towards NASCAR in the, you know, modern social media thing. It's just people don't know what it's really like. And I got a glimpse of it going through the interview phase, you know, getting the job offer and whatnot. And it just seemed like the people there, they truly care about you as an individual, as an employee.
Yeah, so I will say, you know, I've worked in a couple of different sport franchises. I've worked in the G League. I've worked in professional hockey. NASCAR is probably the biggest people down organization that I've ever been a part of, you know. And that's not even from my boss. That's from like the SVP of all sales, you know, just everybody, they know you by your first name. You know, you're not a numbers cruncher. You're Riley. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think just as far as like being a people oriented company, I think they're one of the best I've been a part of.
Wow.
And I think that also goes a long way, you know?
Yeah.
Because especially in sales, a lot of it is numbers based. So if you're having a couple bad days on the phone, you know, and you're not getting revenue like everybody else, it can become very stressful very fast. But to know like, hey, like you're safe, you know what I mean? Like you don't got to worry. Like if you're at a bad week, you're out. Like, no, there's no way. So it definitely helps out quite a bit.
Right. I know that NASCAR, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You probably have a lot more, you know, input on it than I do. They offer a training program essentially to, you know, college graduates that they take in to train to, you know, work in the ticket sales. It's kind of an academy. And, you know, they bring people in who they think will fit their business model and, you know, fit their personnel. They train them, and they ship them off. Man, that's really cool if, you know, that's what NASCAR does. I don't know if that's 100% what they do, but I read a little bit about it.
Yeah, so we have something called the NASCAR Sales Academy. It's actually what my internship was. I was the second ever class. It's funny because when I started, there's only 3 of us. It was such like a small thing. And now there's 12 people coming in every 6 months. So it's basically, if you're at a college, and you want somewhere where you could come learn sales, learn ticketing, kind of learn how to become a professional in that aspect, we'll train you. We'll spend probably a week and a half to 2 weeks just on our ticketing platforms, on a script that we use, how to be the best you can at relationship-based selling instead of being transactional, right? Because you can call somebody any day and say, hey, do you want to buy? No. Okay, cool. Call me if you do. But to be able to build a relationship with somebody you've never met within 2 minutes and then ask them to give you their credit card information, there's definitely a skill to it, So you got to take 2 to 3 weeks on that, and then we'll actually give you, hey, call these people, like if you sell them, we'll give you the commission for them. So that's another thing about sales is it's a direct relationship to the more you work, the more you get paid, So like when I worked operations in college, I had a great boss, right? Love the guy to death. But if he wouldn't told me after every 18-hour football game, hey, you did a good job, nobody would,
Yeah.
But in sales, if nobody does that, commission check will. So I think that's one of the biggest things is, learning how to sell. Because even if you get, because it's a 10-month program, even if you get 6 months in and decide to go to like the MLS, right, or the NBA, or if you decide to say, hey, sales is a free, I'm going to go to marketing, everybody has to figure out how to sell, whether that's you on an interview, whether that's you on a first date, or whether it's you closing a $10 million deal for a corporation. You got to learn how to sell just to be the best you can in life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Riley, I want to go a little bit back on kind of the healthy work environment. I know like nowadays there's such an incentive in the workforce.
Promotion.
Yeah, that people, they want to instill healthy environments and they want people to come into work and be excited to work hard and be motivated. I feel like in the past in the workplace, it's been a lot more fear oriented, like, oh, my boss is going to get on me or whatever, and this and that. But that's cool to hear that NASCAR in a way is very motivated oriented in a way. And so are there any kind of incentives? Obviously there's that commission check, but are there any kind of, do y'all have any kind of cool ways to like, hey, whoever, wins the quarter gets this or anything like that?
Yeah. So, a couple of things. We do like personal incentives via team, and we'll do a whole team incentive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have the inside sales, which is a sales academy. And then we'll have 3 different regions in Daytona. So we'll have Mid-Atlantic, the Southeast region, and then Midwest. I'm a part of the Midwest for consumer. So like we'll do like whoever has the most revenue for the month, right? Or the highest number of calls for the month, they'll get a gift. Sometimes it's like a weekend stay at a hotel of their choosing. Sometimes it's like a $150 gift card. And we've done smaller stuff, just like week-long things where it's like a Harry Potter theme. I'm not a big Harry Potter guy, but we got some trophy, like a Quidditch trophy. So it's just cool things like that to keep you interested. And they also did, when we went out to Phoenix for the championship, right? So it's all of management goes, but one account executive gets to go from each region. So each team did it a different way. But like, so one of the teams in the Mid-Atlantic did AER, right? Which is, it's kind of a thing where you measure the number of calls you make, how long you're on the phone, how many sales you have in your revenue. And they kind of put it in together and do an equation and measure it against everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got highest in AER, you could get to go. So if that's somebody who, even if your revenue isn't good, if you just want to sit there longer and make more calls, yeah, you're going to win, you're going to go. And that's what happened with those guys. The guy, let's say, I want to say over 25 hours on the phone for 1 week.
Wow.
So if you do a 5-hour workday, that's over 5 hours. Usually the average is about 2. So he definitely, that's one of the things, dude. You just hustle your way to a victory. He was actually out there in Phoenix with us. He's a good dude.
That's pretty cool. You're speaking of Phoenix last week. Unfortunately, my driver, Chase Elliott, wasn't. He was in the Final Four. Yeah, he got kind of spun. Didn't finish where I wanted him to. But you went to the championship race, man. That's pretty cool. Like incentive wise, just being an employee for him. That'd be like, an executive for the Tampa Bay Bucks getting invited to the Super Bowl out in, LA last year to watch just because he's an employee for the NFL. That's really cool that NASCAR, does that for their employees, that offers that incentive for their employees, man. That's really cool.
Yeah, Riley, a little bit more about, you said you went to Phoenix. Have you ever been to any of the other races? Do you travel around a lot, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so it kind of depends. We'll go, each one of us will go probably about 10 or 12 a year, depending on, so like we'll always be the ones in Daytona here. But I went down to like Homestead. I've been to Talladega, Darlington, Martinsville, Richmond, Watkins Glen. Going to Michigan for the first time next year. Been out to Phoenix. Been out to Bristol, Charlotte. So it just usually about 1 to 2 a month we'll make it out to.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it sounds like you're on the road most of the time, aren't you?
Yeah, there's a good amount of time where we'll have like 3 or 4 weeks in a row, where we'll just be like, you work in the office and then leave Thursday, come back on Monday, work in the office Tuesday to get caught up, and then boom, you're out Wednesday again for a different race. So it definitely, once the season kicks in, it will stay pretty busy,
Mm-hmm.
But, like it's a good thing. Like I feel like just last week it was April, and we were kicking off Bike Week here in Daytona, and now the season's over.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it goes by so fast.
So, Riley, a little bit like whenever you're on the road, what does that look like for NASCAR? Do they, for instance, do y'all stay in all the same hotels? Is there per diem? What are the kind of perks that they take care of you whenever you're, for instance, in Phoenix or in Bristol or wherever?
Yeah, so, it kind of depends on what we're doing. Bristol and Charlotte I went to more as a fan, so they didn't really take care of me as much.
Mm-hmm.
But like when we go to races to work, right? So it also depends on where it's located. So somewhere like Richmond, we can get a hotel downtown, and it makes more sense. But somewhere like Martinsville, instead of driving an hour and a half to Greensboro or over to Danville, we'll actually stay off Smith Mountain Lake, which is about 30 minutes, but we'll just get a big Airbnb on the water.
Oh,
So just kind of, everyone will be a little bit different. And for Homestead, which is actually about an hour south of Miami, we stayed in the Keys. So,
Yeah.
just kind of a nice little reward of what we can do there. We always try to make the best of it. But the big thing that we do on track is, we talk to all these people on phone calls, right? So that's another big thing about NASCAR is we're not centrally located in like Orlando, right? So if, let's say you move to Tennessee and you don't want to go to Daytona anymore, cool, no worries. Let's get you out to Bristol, So that's something very unique to our sport. That someone like my brother who works for the Jacksonville Jaguars, if one of his season ticket members moved to Tennessee, well, he's out. You know what I mean? So the biggest thing that we do on those weekends is seeing all of our campers, seeing all our people who, are good clients with us because we only usually see them 2 or 3 times a year. Then we also do pre-event renewals. So that way, if you like your seats, you like your campsite, you can get everything set up at the track that weekend. We'll even give you like a renewal gift. And it works out pretty good well for both ways because you still have the same payment plan. But that way, you got the seats you want, you got the camping or hospitality. Everybody loves the gift. It doesn't matter what it is. Everybody loves it. And that way, we can already start that renewal progress on a little bit of a green line there.
A lot of NASCAR fans are like diehards. You talk about renewals and stuff like that. A lot of those people, that's their vacation. That is what they enjoy going to do on their time off. And I love it, man. I've been to Daytona. I've been to a couple of 400s. I love going to the race. You go out. We've had the hot passes and been able to go do whatever, the weekend can offer. And you see all the campers, man. You see all the, the infield where they have the Uno, what's it called? The plaza in there.
Yep, the UNOH fan zone.
Yeah, the fan zone. And it's so cool, man. My first time going over there, I actually won tickets. A buddy of won tickets on a radio show on the NASCAR XM Sirius channel. And we got to go over there and watch the Busch Clash for my first race ever. And we got, tickets to the fan zone and everything. And when you go in the fan zone, you can check out, like, they have, these big garages and stuff. And you can walk. You can't, like, go in the garage, but you can walk up to the garage and look through the window. And you could see them in there, like, turning the wrenches, working on cars, or, get an autograph because there's a little place where you can slide, like, a hat or something that gets signed by the crew chief or something. It's really, really cool. It's really hands-on experience for fans. And that's something that, other sports don't really offer.
Yeah, and I would say that's kind of the biggest thing that separates us from more of a stick and ball type sport like your traditional, baseball, basketball, soccer, football, is we don't really sell wins and losses. We're not selling to one team. We're not selling just to Chase Elliott fans. We're selling, an experience. We're selling a track.
Yeah.
So we really don't, we're not hoping that a certain racer wins. We're hoping you guys have a good time. And so much of NASCAR is an experience-based weekend. People aren't going to see their favorite driver win, right? They're 1 out of 40, so their percentage of winning is very slim. But each track has its own little nature to it. Like Martinsville, that still feels like you're in the 50s, is very different from Daytona that had $1 million renovation done probably 5 years ago. So every little track's got its own unique thing. And I'll have many people who go, hey, I'm going to this track this year and this track next year. We're going to eventually hit them all. So it's a very much so. You'll pick your vacation, especially like Phoenix. You go up there a week early. You can go hiking, go to the mountains. It's so much more of a destination thing than anything.
Yeah, man, it's really cool that that's how the sport's set up. Like you said, nobody has, there's no home field for NASCAR, man. Like that's my goal. I want to, I've been to Daytona now twice. It's really cool. See a lot of cool wrecks, but I'd like to make it out, like to Talladega. I'd like to go to Bristol. I'd like to go to Martinsville. I'd like to go, my personal favorite track I'd like to go watch a race at would probably be Phoenix, just because I know it'd be the championship. But other than that, I'd like to go to like Indianapolis, bro. Like, just to get the different, experiences from all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been really a huge NASCAR fan, but the more Brian and I lived together for 2 years in college, and so he would turn it on, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is pretty cool. Whatever, we played the NASCAR video game, but I mean, just the whole conversation makes me want to get into it. But Riley, like, what's your favorite track? Where would you go? Like, for instance, for me, if I'm going on a vacation, where should I go?
If you're going for the first time, right, on a vacation, I'm always a little biased to Homestead or Daytona, just because you're from the Keys right there. You can go to the beach. You're an hour from everything. If you like the golf, definitely Phoenix, dude. 10 minutes outside of Phoenix is all the best golf courses you can ever go to.
That's
if
awesome.
you like to be a little bit somewhere where there's nice scenery, beautiful. We stayed up in Bristol for the first dirt race that they had, and we stayed about 30 minutes away in Abington, and we got this little Airbnb. It's only for like 8 people, but it was on like the top of a hill on a hay farm, and it was absolutely gorgeous to wake up to. So it kind of depends on whatever you guys want to do. If you love trails, things like that, like nature, Watkins Glen is in the middle of right under the Finger Lakes in Seneca, in New York, and it's literally in a state park. It is absolutely gorgeous. And then the cool thing is it's also very unique at NASCAR. We have camping too.
Yeah.
So imagine your SEC college tailgate, but for 7 straight days, and it's only $200.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of it is people who don't want to go and spend all the hotels. Well, bring your camper. It's $300 for a whole week, and you're 100 yards away from the track.
Yeah, that's sick. So would they watch the race from their camper, or would they have seats up there?
It depends. So some tracks will have infield camping. So like in Daytona, we have literally camping. So you'll have the track where they're going 200 miles an hour. You'll have probably 10 feet of grass, a fence, and then boom, your camper.
Dude. It's cool.
It's absolutely insane to watch it from there. And a lot of these people who will have like Class A RVs or like pull behind, they'll actually get structures on top, like scaffolding on top of their RV, and they'll watch it from the top. And that's probably the best place to view a race out of any.
Yeah, because you're literally in the middle of the track. You can see all 4 turns and both straightaways. When I go at Daytona, the past 2 times I've been there, I normally sit right at the entrance of pit road. Right where you can see all hell break loose when the white or the checker flag's up in the air and 40 cars are coming to the line at 200 miles an hour trying to win the 400 to get in the playoff. Man,
it's absolutely insane, especially because you got 4 wide. They're really only supposed to be 3, but they can fit 4 in because they're about half an inch apart. But there's always one guy who tries to go on that outside lane to make it 5 wide, and it just never works.
Nope, and everything just gets jumbled. They always call it the big one. Every plate track is what they're called. It's where you're on the track and your foot hits the gas, and it don't come off the gas until a yellow flag comes out, or you're avoiding somebody. That's what a plate track is. And it's over a mile and a half.
To kind of get a perspective on it, imagine going 190 miles an hour with people in front of behind you, give or take 6 inches, that constantly hits you. And then you got to keep it straight, because if you move and hit somebody a little bit, the air is going to hit them, and then you're going to wreck 30 people.
Yeah. Dude, it's really cool.
It is insane. It is very nerve-wracking, but that's kind of the stigma of it. They call it the big one, like you said, but it's not an if it's going to happen. It's just a win.
Yep.
So you can tell, especially once 20 laps start to go, that's when everybody starts to make their moves. People, you can just feel it. People start to get nervous, start to get anxious, and it is just a blast.
Yeah, man. And the sounds too. Like when you're at the track and you hear it, like you hear these cars hit each other, and you can smell like the rubber and the burning. Like it's dude, it's so much fun. I would highly suggest people to get out to a racetrack, catch one in their lifetime.
Yeah. So especially like nowadays, I know the big last death in NASCAR was Dale Earnhardt, right? And then since then, there's been huge advancements in the technology with the cars, correct? Do you want to go in a little bit about that?
Yeah, so, I'm not really in racing operations, so I don't know all the main details of it. But, once they took a look at Dale, what happened to Dale is just kind of like a failure when he got hit from the side. Ironically enough, Ryan Newman was actually the one who said, hey, we need to fix this. And if you guys don't remember back in 2020 when he flipped trying to win the 500, if the part that he hadn't said we need to be fixed, if that wasn't in there, he would have died.
Yeah.
You know, and just because of that, he spent overnight at a Halifax hospital there, and then he was gone, you know? So the advancements to the cars are absolutely insane. You have what's called a Hans device, which it just sits right here. You can't move your neck. You can't move your head really that much at all. So you're strapped in, like you're not moving. But yeah, we got the new car that came in this year that we have a small problem with, but it's new. So they're working on that. But it's one of the things, you know, people don't call NASCAR a sport because, you know, we're not hitting each other in the heads with helmets. But I mean, when's the last time you saw somebody die? You know what I mean? So like, it's definitely just as tough as a sport as anything else.
No, I agree. 100%. NASCAR is a sport, man. You tried to tell me to go, or as a normal person, you try to go turn a car that's going 200 miles an hour, right? And they're not automatic cars. Like, you don't get in and you just hit the gas and go. Like, these are manual stock cars. So you get in a stock car and you're going 200 miles an hour, and then you have to turn that thing on a degree of banking that's 85 degrees. So the turns at Daytona, when you go on the track, you can literally
it's
go.
It's like a hike to walk up.
You literally could go like this, and you're catching yourself right here. So like you're literally looking up the race, like the track. So man, like
I believe it's a 33-degree incline.
Yeah. So like trying to turn that, not the average person's not going to be able to turn that going that fast. Like those guys work out. They're athletes, and their mental side of it.
And I saw something. They lose like a ton of water while they're racing, right?
Yeah. So like let's say like for Daytona in August, right? It's going to be 95 to 100 degrees outside. So that means on the track, because you have a fire suit on, which is basically like a heavy winter jacket. So after that, the internal temp's like 130, 140 degrees, and then you're just sitting there for 3-4 hours at a time. So like there'll be people who will lose 15, 20 pounds just in water weight.
Yeah.
So like that, their resting heart rate's 158 to 160. Like they'll start to do diagnostics on these drivers, and then just what they come out with is insane.
That's unreal. Yeah, I was about to say, I thought that was a little far-fetched whenever I was about to say it, but I thought I had heard people would lose like 20 pounds while they're driving.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that was a real thing. That's crazy.
I went to the 400 in 2019. And I believe one of the drivers, like, they don't have much AC, but the little AC units they do have broke. And his helmet, like the little extension cord, it wasn't working or something. Mm-hmm. He got out of his car, and this was at night too, after the race finished. I believe it was Austin Dillon. He got out of his car and like almost collapsed just because from heat exhaustion and not having like his AC or water. He just collapsed. That's how hot it gets inside that car, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah, some of them, I know AJ Allmendinger used to do this. They actually make, so back, remember like your PAL days, right? You had the little shirt, the compression shirt that had all the padding in it.
Yeah.
They make that, but it actually shoots cold water through it to keep you kind of like your central organs cold. Mm-hmm. But like if that goes out or like you lose your water and can't get another one, you're stuck out there 2-3 hours at a time, just sweating.
And it's not like, I mean, obviously a driver can do what he needs deemed to be done for safety. But when you have like, you know, a multi-million-dollar payout on the line, and you have multi-million-dollar sponsors on that hood, and you have an owner up there that's paying you a lot of money, you can be hot for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be hot for 3 hours, or you're going to push the limits as a driver to, you know, earn that money that you're
that's the
getting.
thing. They're also professionals too. I mean, like they want to win. There's a reason why they're,
you know, everybody there's a competitor. You know? Like they want the trophy just as bad as anybody else.
Yeah, and I just know from like my athletic background, I can, and football is a big thing. When I was in high school, I played both sides of the ball. So there'd be times where I'd be wheezing or whatever, be so tired. It's like, nah, we'll go one more snap. And I feel like it's the same kind of thing with the driver.
Yeah,
it's like, no, I don't need to pee.
Like,
yeah.
But yeah, you know, like somebody like, let's say who does like Olympic track, right? They don't even have a sponsor that's for themselves, I don't believe. But they're not going to stop, you know. Like you saw the one guy who tore his calf muscle and just kept going, even though he knew he was going to lose, just because he didn't want to stop.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a big thing in sports, I feel like. But
you know, I love where we, you know, kind of gone down that rabbit hole. I love NASCAR. Like, don't get me wrong. I can't wait to get back out to my next track, wherever I plan to go to. I'm sure you can help me out, pick one out. And I want to take him too bad, because I know he would have a good time. But Riley, we gotten to how you've gotten there. We've gotten to, the perks and the benefits of being an employee. What's kind of your future plan along NASCAR? Are you going to stay there and try to move up the ranks as high as you can, or what's kind of your game plan?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I can tell, my game plan is just to stay with NASCAR, man. They've been nothing but the best to me personally, and for me to want to leave that is just, I don't think I could ever do it, unless something were to happen. But they've always having room to grow if you can prove you can, and they always put you in front of good leaders above you that can make that happen for you, so that, and then I bought a house here, so, I got
you're not going anywhere.
Years on that thing. Yeah.
Don't bite the hand that feeds you, I guess.
Right. So would you wouldn't ever consider going to MLB? I know with your baseball background.
Yeah, so, I'm a very big fan of baseball, right? Grew up playing it, actually played with Spradlin. That's how I met him in college. Playing summer leagues, he was my catcher. But the big problem, and, one of the biggest things they always told us is it's hard to work in the sport that you love, right?
Yeah.
Because it's very hard to differentiate yourself between a fan and an employee. And that's one of the things, like you work, like let's say baseball, right? They got a ton of home games. So you finally work that 80-second one. The last thing you want to do is go and watch a baseball game, to whereas like for me, if I work a race weekend, I'll probably work 97 hours in 1 week. On that Monday, the first thing I want to do is go to the Daytona Tortugas, the single A team, kick my feet back and watch a single A baseball game.
Yeah.
So it's one of them things. I wouldn't really recommend it for myself. I don't think I would like it, just because I don't really have anything. I wouldn't want to watch that as a fan.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I totally agree. Since my playing career has been over, I've had some people ask me, like, hey, are you going to stick around the game? Like, you think about coaching or whatnot? And my answer to them, bro, is the straightest no. Like, nah. Like, I'm good with just going to the Trop and watching a couple games a year. I love baseball, but, like, I have new adventures now, bro. Like, I want to do different things. And there's no problem with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's different. Go ahead, Riley.
I was just gonna, it's very different for me since I'm more on the business side of things, right? So like if you're in player ops, you're an athletic trainer, and you got to be with the team. Obviously, it's better if you have a sport that you like, because it's going to be a long season if you don't, But like on the business side, it's we only care about the numbers, to be flat out honest with you.
Yeah, I mean,
so when you do that, everything, you don't look at it as like a sport, Like when I went to Phoenix, we were working, so it wasn't like, cool, I get to sit down and just watch the race. Like we were trying to make sure our numbers matched up, so that way we could put ourselves in a good spot for next year. So I really only got to enjoy like 30 laps of it, but it's just it's because we don't think like that. Our brains are wired differently.
That's true. I get that.
Yeah, Riley, I think it's a good time. We wanted to move a little bit into the Snap questions, which kind of the purpose behind the Snap questions is to get to know you more as a person. We've talked about NASCAR and we've talked about your jobs and your goals and your aspirations. We kind of want to know a little bit like who's the real Riley. So we ask this question at the beginning of every Snap questions. If you could have 3 people out to dinner, dead or alive, who would those 3 people be?
I'd have to say one for sure would be Derek Jeter.
Nice.
He's one of the people, if you look over at his career, especially when he first started out, he was never someone who was like, that's the dude. He would never came out like Trout or Harper hitting 40 home runs in a year. He was always your very consistent doubles, triples guy who would mix a couple in. But the way that he carried himself made him such a leader that he became that dude in a different way.
Yeah.
Especially like when you're that dude for the Yankees, So I think that would be the biggest thing, is just like, like following his antics, like just picking his brain on things, being, how do you lead the clubhouse? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that would be a really cool one.
I saw one quote that they didn't think, I forget who said this, but they said Derek Jeter wouldn't be Derek Jeter if he never got drafted by the Yankees. Like if he was, for instance, with the A's, he wouldn't be this legend that everybody knows, but the fact that he was that guy for the New York Yankees, and obviously he could be a captain for Oakland Athletics, like he'd be probably an above average shortstop. But the fact that he was that guy and was put on that pedestal for New York, it kind of sells him. But
we've gotten DJ, or I call him DJ. We gotten Derek Jeter a couple of times from our guests.
Yeah, as far as the other two, I'm not 100% sure. Probably Dale Earnhardt.
Nice,
because
the Intimidator.
Everybody always talks about him and his mentality, and I would just love to pick his brain on some things. Like when he just absolutely wrecks somebody, he goes, I just got into him a little bit. Like, we both know you put the bumper to him and put him right in the wall. Like, there's no way you can't, you know what I mean? Like, I just got into him a little bit. So I would just love to talk to him, see his background, kind of how that happened. And then if I had to pick someone else non-sports,
I know we've had a lot of comedians. We've had people come up with, for instance, like mine. Mine is Robin Williams, Matthew McConaughey, and Elon Musk. And so
I'd love to talk to Elon because I feel like he's different, dude.
Yeah,
just the way that he thinks about things and like the way that his brain processes stuff is incredible to me.
Well, people say whenever they have conversations with him, it's like
they're talking to a higher being.
Yeah, they feel like it's not even another human.
Yeah, mine were Joe Rogan, my college professor, and Elon. My first three. I think that'd be a very fun conversation. You got your third ready for us yet?
It would probably honestly have to be Elon.
Yeah, we sold him on it.
So if you look at the businesses that are very successful, it's like they own their company, but whatever like is usually subleased that their company has to like pay out to get to do or subcontracted, they own that as well. And so now they kind of start dipping their hands in so many markets that they can't fail. And I think that's kind of like Elon Musk to a T, like with SpaceX, Tesla, now Twitter. Like he's dipping his hands. He's going to be like the next Amazon, I think, branding wise, where they're just like, he's got everything and everything. Well,
he's already covered the big three: social media, Amazon, and then transportation. So that's solid three right there. That's a good conversation.
And I think with everybody in the next 100 years, like the space race and all this stuff, like I think he's going to be on the forefront of it.
Yeah,
obviously with SpaceX and all that stuff. So I think he eventually is just going to start taking off.
And imagine that the conversation with Elon and Dale Earnhardt, like they
those
would have
two
together.
Opposites. Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Yeah. Or they would be like trying to pump each other up to who can get to Jupiter first. Or whatever.
All right, Riley. Our next snap question for you. This is my one I came up with because I know you're in the NASCAR realm. And you might just be a business guy, but who's your favorite driver? Like if you're sitting back on a Sunday and you're watching the Cup Series, who's the guy you're like, man, I really hope he pulls it out today?
Yeah, so when I first got into the sport back in 2019, knew absolutely nothing about NASCAR, right? I was under the impression, why would you want to watch left turns on a TV? But, once you got to your first race, you're like, dude, like you need to follow a driver, right? If you can pick a driver to follow for a couple of races, it makes stuff so much more fun. Because now you can start to see what their strategy is and all that stuff. But as far as the driver, probably Ryan Blaney.
Nice.
When I first started, he was just out of the Wood Brothers, went to Penske. But this is back before they made him shave. So he had the big old like caterpillar mustache, long hair. Well, he looked like he was straight out of Darlington. I said, yep, that's my man.
I like it. I think if my partner here got into it, I've been working on him. I think that'd be his favorite driver too.
He's a great guy too. Absolutely phenomenal human being.
The funny story of how I became a Chase Elliott fan. It's kind of the stigma. It's like Chase Elliott's kind of like the new Earnhardt brand. He's just like the big name. But literally, bro, I kid you not. This is how I became a Chase Elliott fan. I was sitting there with my buddy watching the race. We've been having some drinks, and I look at him like, how should I pick a driver? Like, I want to be a fan. How should I pick a driver? He said, there's a lot of different ways. He said, do you just want to pick for the guy that's for the furthest south? I was like, yeah. And at this time, Ross Chastain wasn't in the Cup Series. So he's like, all right, well, your driver is Chase Elliott. He's from Dawsonville, Georgia. I was like, sweet. I'm rooting for the guy from Georgia. I didn't know that he was going to be a superstar or a champion.
Yeah. And
that was just how I picked him. I was like, all right, sweet. He's from Georgia. That's my guy. And
it's the way people pick their drivers are insane. I had a girlfriend who, when I first started, I took her up. It was her first Daytona 500, and I said, "Hey, you got to pick a driver, right?" And she was going to nursing school. She goes, "I like the Advent Health Car," which was Chastain back when he was with like Spire, right? He had no chance of getting in the top 20, but it was Daytona. I'm like, she goes,
never know.
A chance to win. I'm like, yeah. I mean, yeah.
There's always a chance.
Yeah, Michael McDowell.
Yeah.
Michael McDowell.
Oh, dude, what a guy too. I felt so good for that man. He's a great guy, but just busting it out for years.
Dude, he's like a veteran, been in hadn't been in one of the top tier cars, been in kind of the middle of the pack. He's a guy that, leads the Drivers Worship Sunday service right before races. He pulled it off. The Daytona 500 and the 34 Loves car.
Loves travel style, yeah.
Yep, pulled it off, man. Like, his odds to win the race were like 2,000 to 1 before.
Wow.
Yeah, dude.
It was insane.
Pretty cool story.
So
somebody picked like him and somebody else on a parlay and won like $100,000.
Yeah.
holy cow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, hey, let's talk a little bit about if you could work in like any other field. Like, have you ever had a field where you were like, I think that would be really cool, or like kind of like this is my dream job? Now, it could be working for NASCAR doing sales. But did you ever have anything where you're like, if I could ever do that, like I'd make it, like that'd be my thing?
No, dude, for sure. So like if money was taken out of the picture, right, and I could just do whatever I wanted, just like it loved it, I would definitely want to be like a high school athletic director and a baseball coach.
Yeah,
that would be probably my favorite job. Believe it or not, when I was in college, I was trying to figure out this whole, like, oh shit, like in 2 years, like I got to be an adult, like I need to find a career, right? I actually interviewed Sprad's dad like 3 times, just to like pick his brain on things and all of that. And then, if the NASCAR thing wouldn't have happened, I probably would have got my master's degree and just went and be like a high school AD.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah, for those of y'all that don't know Brian's dad, he is the athletic director at Fort Meade High School.
Yes, he is.
We're kind of from.
You may ask the last one?
Go ahead.
All right, ma'am. We asked this one too to a couple of our guests. We get a lot of different responses. But if I were to give you $100,000 right now, I just wire transferred it to you. What are you doing with this money? Where are you going with it?
I mean, anytime I get like discretionary income, like commission or anything like that, I always pay off the bills, obviously, right? But something like this, I would do the 60-30-10 rule. So like 60% I'm going to invest, right? Whatever that is, whether that's your Roth, 401k, crypto, whatever you want to do, that's what I do is invest the 60. The 30% I save, so that like rainy day, like I need money now, boom, I have it. And that 10%, that's what I give myself to just spend on dumb money, because I'm a person, if I don't spend money, I get nervous. But if I don't watch out, I'll spend all of it. So I give myself that in cash. Let's say it's like $1,000. I give myself $1,000 in cash, and once it's done, it's done. But that kind of fulfills my need to spend it while also being kind of savvy with the rest of it.
Right. I'm the same way. I mean, if I obviously, like in my head, I've never heard of the 60-30-10 rule. I like that.
I do too. I like that. I do like that.
Yeah, I told Brian, I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely investing in something so I can make my money. But in reality, in fact, I might take a little something. I don't have a nice weekend.
You have to a little bit, there's no point in making money if you don't spend it. I think, you just got to spend it reasonably.
Yeah, I think if somebody gave me $100,000 right now, I would take it. I'd pay off my student loans.
Yeah,
and then after that, I would probably have about 35-ish left. And I'd probably just put a nice down payment on a truck or a house.
I'm telling you. I did it about a month ago. Yeah. I understand you.
And then I just set myself up, to live. That's all I do.
Yeah, them student loans ain't
no joke, man. I actually...
and they're not going away.
Yeah. No. I know. They shut down the... what you call it? The waiving. Yeah, the waiving the student loans.
Well, I thought he was going to give $10,000 out or something.
Hopefully. I applied for it. We'll see.
Yeah.
We shall see. All right,
that's
Riley.
One of the things, whether you agree with it, that's one of the things, whether you agree with it or not. If you don't take the $10,000, it makes no sense.
Yeah. Exactly.
If they pass it, because I had a friend who was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to do it just on principle." I said, "Well, you're an idiot.
Yeah,
you're going to pay the next 90 years in taxes. You might as well take it now."
Yeah.
But that's a story for a different day. But yeah,
I was about to say the same thing. I was having a conversation with my mom, and she was, I'm not necessarily for it. I don't think, why should my college get paid for and other people that actually paid for theirs, they get taxed
people
on
that are like trade school.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so my mom I was like, I don't think I should take it. She goes, you're dumb not to take it.
Yeah.
I don't agree with it either. But if somebody's going to give you $10,000, you might as well take it because somebody else will take it if you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's anything I've known about the government, they're going to get their money some way or another.
Yeah, they will.
Usually in the form of taxes, so I might as well take it because I'm going to have to give it to them either way in the long term.
Yeah, for real.
Well, Riley, I had an awesome time today. Thank you, so much for agreeing to come on. I absolutely loved it. You were one of the guys that I thought off of rip, to have on. You have a really cool story. You work for a really big brand. You shed some light on it, man. Thank you. NASCAR, bro. I just love this episode. It's going to be one of my favorites.
Yeah, Brian and I will definitely have to contact you and get me out to Daytona or Homestead or wherever, and maybe we can link up, and we'll post a TikTok or something, and hopefully have you back on later in life.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, dude. Let me know. Even if you guys like sports cars, we have the Rolex 24. It's a 24-hour straight endurance race. And the last weekend in January, they're in the 28th. So it is an absolute blast. And like most people don't realize, like NASCAR tickets are generally pretty affordable.
Yeah.
So like all 4 days of activities, you're looking at like $115 for the January race, and that gets you into the pits, into the garages. Like it's an all access pass for $100 for the whole week. It's insane.
So for any of our listeners that want to contact you to try to get some tickets, how would they contact you?
Yeah, so the easiest way would just be kind of like emailing me on what track and what kind of options you guys are looking at. And that would just be R and then my last name, McClellan, McClellan at NASCAR.com. Or just give me a call on my office line. It'll go directly to me. That one can be 386-681-4065.
Awesome, man. Well, Riley, we wish you nothing but the best of luck. May life treat you fast. I hope that's how people in the NASCAR world think about it. I hope you keep going fast, and I hope you keep pulling off the checker flags, bud.
Appreciate it, man. I look forward to speaking with you guys again.
Awesome, man.
Yep, thanks.